Ready on your end, Steve?
Yep, think so.
Let's get started. How's everything going? Good talking Nebraska Cornhuskers football with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Greg.
Rivals. So I know you haven't been with Rivals long, so congratulations on the new gig. You must be excited and pumped reporting on the Huskers in a very important season coming up for the football team.
Yeah, it's a really dream come true to work for a place like Rivals and kind of do what I'm really super passionate about, which is cover college football and college basketball. So we've got some great programs in Nebraska that are looking to turn things around for sure. But yeah, there's always something happening, I guess, which is always kind of a good thing. It keeps you on your toes, and it's just a big time, I guess, for both programs, but especially for the football program. Going into the 2022 campaign with, Scott Frost and everything that they're going through and needing to have a really good season here. So it's sure entertaining.
How are the fans, like, if you percentage wise, how are they for or against Scott Frost at this point in time?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty even down the middle. There's a strong pro Frost contingent, but then there's also a contingent where, it's almost like past overdue, like we should have made a change. And I just think it's pretty down the middle right now. There's a large group pro Frost, anti Frost that are, and everybody just kind of holding their breath to see how this year goes, because it's kind of a make or break season for him. In my opinion,
at least everybody knows that. At least everybody knows it's not. Well, we got to sit here for another 3 or 4 years. So it's even Scott knows this is it. You can lose. It don't matter if you lose 7 games by 3 points or less this year. It doesn't matter. You got to win those games if you're in close games. And schedule wise, there's a really good opportunity to get off to a good start, especially if they can upset Oklahoma. At the end of the month. That's the big one, because competitive last year on the road, again, like every game. But if they can turn that into a win, they could get off to a good start. And that's what they need with the tough ending season schedule.
Yeah, the bright spot for this season is absolutely the schedule, like you said, Greg. Like if you squint, you could see 6-0, right? But saying that about a program like Nebraska is like kind of crazy just from how everything has gone in Scott's tenure here. But yeah, they kick it off with Northwestern. Northwestern is, in my eyes, they have a lot of questions, maybe even more than Nebraska. And Nebraska has a lot of questions to answer on all sides of the ball. But yeah, if they get past Northwestern, you got North Dakota at home, Georgia Southern at home, Oklahoma at home, and Oklahoma, honestly, like, I don't know. There's a lot of opinions on what they're going to look like. It's a whole new coaching staff, a lot of new players there. Who knows what the Sooners are going to look like? But yeah, if they can get past that, they got a bye week. They're heading into a bye week at 4-0. And then, yeah, Indiana at home too. And then they go on the road to Piscataway at Rutgers. So, yeah, there's just a great opportunity in front of the program right now to finally get some momentum and kind of start off the season the right way, which Scott hasn't really had a lot of in his tenure here at Nebraska. And then once they get that, who knows what a little momentum and kind of good vibes can do to a program with 33 new faces, 15 Division I transfers, 15 true freshmen, 3 junior college additions. There's just a lot of newness right now. And if those guys can get a little pep in their step and some wins under their belt right away, who knows how this season can go.
Yeah, if they start 3-3, then it's like, it's another one of those years. It's just, you know, all right. I wonder, even if the team gets to a bowl, I wonder what would happen at that point. Maybe that gives Scott another season. It's quite possible, but
yeah. And you bring up a great point, because if things go off the rails and it's 3-3, then you start looking at the restructured contract, in my opinion, with Scott. He had his, it was last November, the athletic director here, Trev Alberts, he restructured Frost's contract, and he dropped the annual salary from $5 million to $4 million. The buyout drops from $15 to $7.5 million as of October 1st, and that's the day of the Indiana game. So it's really, really important to get off to a really good start at the beginning of the season. But yeah, if it's looking 3-3, yikes.
Trev Alberts, man, that just shows you how old I am. I grew up watching Trev Alberts play football. So, all right.
It's funny you mentioned that. A couple of days ago, I threw on YouTube and was watching some Trev Alberts highlights.
Good player.
Wow.
Yes.
Good play.
Absolutely. Those are some really good defensive teams. Did he play with Adamakin Sue? I'm not sure if he did or not.
Trev? Oh, no.
That was probably before that. That was probably during what was the God head coach there again?
Devaney?
No. After
Tom Osborne.
Yes. Yeah, you've had a couple of them. I know.
Sorry, we had 2 of those.
Yeah. That's where I grew up. The Tom Osborne era. Okay, so let's get through the roster at a quarterback. I mean, it is Casey Thompson starting, correct?
Yeah, he'll be out there for the first team reps. Yep.
Okay. And have you been able to see him in practice so far? Are you getting any sort of any sort of an idea of how things are looking so far?
Yeah, so we there were 2 practices where they were open to the media, and we media got to see the team practice for about 35-40 minutes twice this fall camp. And what I liked about Casey was just the way the ball comes out of his hand. It is really, in his short to intermediate passes, from what I saw, they were on point. They had excellent zip coming out of his hand. He just really had a lot of almost oomph and power behind his throws, and that's something that Nebraska fans haven't really seen, I guess, with a guy like Adrian Martinez over the past 4 years. And when you look at the Casey's Texas highlights, you saw that for sure. And he has the ability to hit some deep routes. He has a really pretty deep ball. I didn't really see the deep balls during the open portions that media saw, but his short and intermediate throws were on point. I mean, they looked really good coming out of his hand. And behind him, Chubba Purdy, the other transfer quarterback that they brought in from Florida State, he looked pretty similar to Casey, I think. But it's just what Casey has for his advantage is playing experience and game experience. Yeah. He played in 12 games at Texas. He had 10 starts. He had some good moments. He had some bad moments, but it's that experience that you want right now in a make or break season for Scott and this coaching staff. And especially when you're kicking off the season 4,000 miles away across the Atlantic Ocean in a weird game over in Ireland, Dublin, Ireland stadium. You want a guy who has been there and done that and played in big stages like, the Red River Shootout against Oklahoma. Casey Thompson's been there, done that. So that's one of the biggest reasons why he's going to be out there taking those first team reps on Saturday.
So what time is the game on Saturday? Is it a morning Eastern time game?
Yeah, so Central time, it's going to be 11:30 a.m.
Oh, okay. So that's not bad. Okay.
Yep, they're going to be one of the first, just like they were last year at Illinois, one of the first college football games that everybody's going to be able to watch.
Okay, sounds good. All right, now, by the way, with Adrian Martinez's departure, because with better luck, he's more of a winning quarterback, and there were some issues there over the years, but there was a lot of good play out of Martinez. So what was the reason for Martinez to leave?
Well, we had so the program had 4 years of him, and I just don't think that there was a lot of progress being made, because like if Adrian was going to come back, at least in my opinion, like something needed to change. And if Scott was coming back and then he made the changes with the assistants where he let go about 4 of them, I think, on the offensive side of the ball, I just think it was time for a change. You had 4 years of him, and I don't put everything bad that Nebraska has happened at Nebraska on Adrian Martinez's shoulders. The kid he's a great kid. He played through so many injuries. He's tough as nails. I mean, the guy played with a broken jaw for like half the season. He's just a great kid. Of course, he's not a perfect quarterback, but you're right. He racked up a ton of yards, scored a lot of touchdowns and everything. But I think at the end of the day, it's the talent that he was surrounded with. I think for the past 4 years, like he was running for his life and trying to do the best that he could. And it was time for a change at the end of the year. And I wish the guy luck at Kansas State. I hope he has a really great year.
I think he will. And I think it'll work out for both Nebraska and for Kansas State.
Sure.
All right, the running game. Now the top 4 return, but is Ramir Johnson, is he like the number 1 guy, or do we still have a battle going on and we don't know who that number 1 guy is, if they're going to be a number 1?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question right now. So they brought in a new running backs coach, Brian Applewhite, who I think the world of. Brian Applewhite is a really impressive coach coming from TCU, where he spent the past 2 years. But to hit on Ramir Johnson, so Ramir can do a lot of different things. He can run the ball. He's one of the fastest guys in the room, but he also has one of the best hands. He's a really good receiver out of the backfield. He caught a long touchdown against Michigan last year. That was really good. And I think a guy like when Mark Whipple comes in as the offensive coordinator in his first year from Pitt, I think he sees a guy like Ramir Johnson, and he's said this twice in fall camp already. He sees a little bit of Brian Westbrook, because Whipple was as offensive assistant in the early 2000s with the Philadelphia Eagles. And they have kind of turned Ramir Johnson into more of a wide back, which is what Ramir called himself a few days ago, last week. So they're going to try to get him into the slot more this year. Also trying to utilize him in the backfield too, because if you have a guy who can play a little bit of running back, but also is comfortable enough to be motioned out into the slot and is comfortable enough running routes, I mean, that causes problems and confusion for defenses, right? If you line up in the backfield, you motion into the slot, it's like, okay, now the running back is running routes here. That could cause some confusion and problems for a defense. So he's going to play a lot. Ramir's an excellent player. He's going to play a lot. But as for the number 1 running back, I think that's still a toss-up. The leader in the clubhouse right now has got to be Anthony Grant, the transfer from junior college in Roswell, New Mexico Military Academy. And I think he's just been raved about all fall camp by Brian Applewhite. But they also have some returning production with Jaquez Yant, a super athletic, big-bodied, 235, 240-pound running back. Who I think the fan base really wants to kind of take off, because who doesn't love a 6'2", 235-pound running back who can make some linebackers miss? It's just fun to watch out there. But number 2 on the running back chart, I think you have to give it to Gabe Irvin Jr., who was the true freshman starter last year before going down with the season-ending knee injury at Oklahoma. He was just starting to hit his stride, I think, and he was showing really good things for a young running back, specifically in pass protection on third downs. They would put him out there and he would pick up blitzes really well. And that's kind of something I don't think a lot of young running backs are kind of good at right away. So that's kind of, so I think Anthony Grant will be up there taking most of the reps. But I think it's still going to be an ongoing, this competition is going to bleed into the season, maybe into week 2 or 3. So I just expect a lot of guys to get handoffs, and that competition will sort itself out maybe by Oklahoma.
But it sounds like Grant and Johnson, those are the top 2 guys.
Anthony Grant, Gabe Irvin Jr., I'd say would be number 1 and 2. But then, Ramir Johnson's going to go out there. He's going to play a lot. He's going to catch some passes too.
Sounds good. All right. Now, by the way, speaking of Whipple, I think it was a great move. And look, could be for a year, could be for a long time, but fact is, especially in college, we know the success. I mean, hey, look at what's happened at Massachusetts since he left. So Pickett, tremendous job, Kenny Pickett. Yeah. So I think it's a really great move. And I don't like him at the NFL level necessarily, but at the college level, I think he's a perfect fit. So really good move picking him up. As far as let's talk about Austin Allen's departure, because that was a big loss. The totals were just phenomenal. So let's talk about, is there another guy that is going to get the lion's share of the snaps and the touches, or is it going to be a committee between, Vocleck and Hickman, and then that top recruit that came over from Iowa State last year?
Yeah, so Travis Volklike is the guy in the room. He was just named a captain last Saturday. He has played behind Austin Allen and hasn't had the opportunities in the passing game that Austin had, and rightly so, because Austin, I mean, he's Big Ten tight end of the year. He's doing really good things, showing good things with the New York Giants right now in preseason. But Travis Volklike, I think, is going to impress people. He's massive. He's 6'7", 260 pounds. He's not slow. And I think he's a really good run blocker. And that's what his role has been since when Austin Allen was with the program. But now that Austin is out of it, I think Travis Volklike, he's going to open some eyes, potentially NFL scouts' eyes. The guy has better hands than everybody thinks just because he hasn't had the opportunities in the pass game. You know, when he does get the opportunities, he's made some excellent grabs. He's really good about catching the ball with his hands. He never lets it get into his chest plate. He made some excellent catches at Michigan State and at Oklahoma are the two that comes to my mind. They looked really impressive catches. So I think the opportunity is in front of him. Travis Vocleck, who came over a few years ago from Rutgers. He's from Missouri, started his career at Rutgers. Now he's at Nebraska, and this is his time to shine. And you know, like I said, he was named a captain. He's a really good kid, really smart. Coach's son, I believe. His dad is on staff actually as a offensive analyst, I believe. He came over from Northern Iowa. Coach's son. Really good guy, and I think he's gonna kind of open some eyes right now. And I think the young tight end that you said came over from Iowa, Thomas Fidone II. He is a 6'6", 240-pound just freak, I think. But the thing with him is he's just been ravaged by injuries. It's his second year, I believe, in the program, and he's had some ACL trouble. He's had 2 major knee injuries. I don't know if we're going to see him this year. Okay. Nobody's really talked about it, but he was the number 1 rated tight end when he came out. And he's just got so much potential, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. But you know, he's on the road to recovery again. If you look up anything about Thomas Fidone, that guy's mentality, I mean, it's crazy. He is all about the rehab and just putting in the work and trying to get back on the field. I mean, he's doing everything that he can, and the staff is being very, very, very careful with him and his knees, and just being very careful, because I think everybody knows he's a great talent. They just need to get him healthy and get him out there, and I think he's going to show the potential that he has. But yeah, Travis Volklek is going to be number 1, and Scott Frost on the radio last week said that he could be Nebraska has 2 tight ends in the NFL right now, kind of catching passes with Jack Stahl with the Eagles, and then Austin Allen right now trying to make the Giants roster. Scott Frost he made no bones about it. He thinks Travis Volklek could be the best one out of that trio right now. So
breakout candidate.
I think a lot of people are going to open their eyes and be impressed with Travis Volklek.
Okay. Wide receiver, the number 1 guy is gone, and then you've got 2 other contributors gone. So this sounds to me, or it looks to me, to be like an open competition. A lot of potential, including transfers. You mentioned transfers at the beginning of the show. So the transfers, LSU, Texas, JUCO route, New Mexico State. So is there and Martin and Manning are coming back, but is there a number 1 potential guy in this group? Somebody that, you know what, this guy could be our number 1 receiver this year.
So all of spring ball, and I think up until last week, everybody would be saying Trey Palmer, the transfer from LSU. Really dynamic guy, 6'1", 195 pounds. He a good returner in the special games area too that he showed at LSU. He had his best season as a LSU Tiger last year. But his wide receivers coach, Mickey Joseph, a former Nebraska player back in the day, he made the move to Nebraska to coach the wideouts, and Trey followed. And so I think Trey Palmer is going to be the guy that Whipple might try to. Whipple in his past has always kind of identified his most dangerous guy. Andy Isabella is an example from UMass. And then, Jordan Addison at Pitt last year, obviously really, really good. So I think Trey Palmer could be that guy this year. But up until recently, Marcus Washington, a transfer from Texas, has kind of gotten a lot of praise. And I think listening to the coaches, they've been really impressed with what Marcus Washington brings. Okay. And obviously, he has the most connection, the most experience catching passes from the starting quarterback, Casey Thompson. Yeah. So it makes sense. I mean, obviously, and what Casey, we talked to him last night on a kind of an odd Sunday press conference before they left for Ireland. Casey Thompson was very complimentary about Marcus Washington, and Marcus Washington's a really good sized kid, 6'2", almost 6'3", 190 pounds, really fast. He said he's as fast as Xavier Worthy, which the talented freshman wide receiver from Texas last year. So that was a really big kind of comment in my eyes. But those would be kind of the top two that are kind of piquing my interest right now. And then you got the guys that played last year who were in the program last year. Omar Manning, you look at the guy, he's first guy off the bus material, 6'4", 230 pounds, but he's a former junior college guy from Blinn College in Texas, but he hasn't had the, I guess, production that Husker fans have expected from the former, and coming out, he was the number one JUCO wide receiver in the nation. So people expect big things out of him, but he's had trouble getting on the field and staying on the field. And I think consistency is his big thing, which the receivers coach Mickey Joseph has said in press conferences. So, but he's going to get his chance. He's going to be out there for sure. Oliver Martin is another guy who I think is going to do well with Joseph as his position coach and maybe kind of a new offense with Mark Whipple. He had a heck of a season opener last year. He looked like at Illinois, he looked like the only receiver who had a connection with Adrian Martinez. I mean, those two look good, but then he had an injury and it just derailed his season. He had trouble coming back from that and looking the same as he did in the season opener. And then Alante Brown is a guy who hasn't played a lot in his time here at Nebraska, but I think, again, this could be an opportunity for him to get on the field and show his elusiveness, because he has had a few catches here and there. And when he's out there, he looks good. But I think the consistency off the field and in the practice, on the practice field needs to improve for him. And I think, like I said, I mentioned his name a few times already. Mickey Joseph, I think, is one of the better hires of the offseason for sure. He has a proven track record with putting receivers into the league, and he knows how to coach them up, and he's coaching them up right now, and it's tough love, and it's just going to be fun to watch this receiver group that someone's going to have to emerge. We don't know who it is right now, but Trey Palmer, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda. Sorry, I'm just kind of rattling off all sorts of names right now. He's a guy who came from New Mexico State, and before that, he was at a junior college. He brings a lot of speed. Right. He's a big, deep threat. He could take the top off of defense, which will help open up other things for other guys in the middle of the field. But he missed all of spring ball with an injury. So how quickly is he going to shake the rust off at this fall camp? And will he be able to kind of be productive during the season? I don't know, but I think he's going to be out there. It's just going to be fun to see what he brings as well, because you watch his New Mexico State highlights. New Mexico State is a bad program, but he had some really good plays, and I think he's going to be able to help out this offense. I know Mark Whipple is really excited to see what he can do.
Well, it sounds like even though there may not be that number one guy to start the season, there's a lot of competition there.
That's
what you want.
Sure.
And that's what you love about college. That's what's so fun about it, is that you never know. It's not like the NFL, you lose a guy in free agency and then you actually have to go out and get somebody, but you've already kind of done that in college. These guys, unless the transfer portal now is like your free agency, but still it just shows you it could change overnight from one season to the next. All right, offensive line. Now, this is definitely got to be if you're looking at where the program has gone, even Bill Callahan, who's turned out to be like the guru offensive line coach in the NFL, there was a long period at Nebraska where offensive lines, this was it. I mean, it's sort of like Wisconsin still is today, but something's happened. Yeah. I don't know what's happened, but something's happened over the years, and maybe it's correlated with the issues that Nebraska has had overall and competing with the top teams in the conference. How does it look this year?
Yeah, you bring up a great point, and what I would think is, I think the development aspect of the offensive line in particular, I think it was really good, like in the 90s and in the past, but it's just not that way anymore. I don't know. They get talented guys. Turner Corcoran, Bryce Benhart were highly rated offensive tackles, but man, they were thrown to the wolves right away in the Big Ten Conference as young players. And when you're a teenager, basically 19 years old, playing in the Big Ten on the offensive line against older, older edge players, defensive linemen, 330-pound dudes who are like in their 4th or 5th, 6th year sometimes in college. It's not going to look pretty, and it didn't look pretty last year. So Nebraska's offensive line is my unit that I'm going to be most interested to see out of everything on the defense, because you have a former walk-on at center with Trent Hickson. He's a local in-state guy from Omaha Skutt High School. He has starts under his belt from 2019 at left guard, but now he's moving to center because Cam Jurgens decided to go to the NFL, and he's doing absolutely incredible things. I feel like every time I go on Twitter, there's a Cam Jurgens highlight with the Eagles, just like demolishing some safety 20 yards down the field. So the center position is really interesting because Trent Hickson, I don't believe, has played a lot of center in his college career, but he's going to be the starting center now. Turner Corcoran, who I think a lot of people view as the potential future NFL player on the line. He played left tackle last year, and then he switched over to the right tackle when some injuries happened, and now he's likely going to start at left guard this year. So that's another thing. We talked to him at a press conference, and he said, it's pretty not going to be in a 2-point stance much, which he's just kind of used to. He's from Kansas, and he was a great tackle prospect, so he's been in a 2-point stance his whole life, basically. That's a new position for him too. And then with the edges, you have Bryce Benhart on the right and Teddy Prohaska on the left. Teddy Prohaska had an excellent showing last year, but he only showed it in 2 starts. He played in some games, but he was only out there for 2 starts before a season-ending knee injury against Michigan. But he's back now. He didn't practice. He didn't practice all of spring ball. So didn't Turner Corcoran, as he was rehabbing an injury too. But Teddy's out there right now. He's massive, 6'10", 320 pounds. He's really hard to get around, so that's why he's at the left tackle. But it's just going to be interesting to see if he shakes the rust off as well. I don't know how. I don't know if he's going to play the entire game against Northwestern, if they're going to maybe try to limit his snaps, just because for a guy his size coming off an injury like that, maybe they want to take care of him and try to limit what he can do out there. I think that might be smart. But the depth at offensive line is kind of, I don't know. The coaches say that they like it, but if you're looking at it, like for me on the outside, I don't know if there's a lot of things to get excited about there. I kind of glossed over the right guard spot. So Brock Bando is a 6th-year senior, doesn't have a lot of experience. He played some late in the season last year, so that's good a little bit, but just hasn't been a starter his whole career, and he's slated to be the right guard right now. And Bryce Benhart, another big guy, but it just didn't look good at times last year. He looked really slow. His foot speed did not look up to par. And granted, Nebraska played a ruthless schedule last year. They were playing NFL edge guy after NFL edge guy. Boye Mafe at Minnesota, Hutchinson and Ojabo at Michigan, Karlaftis at Purdue. These guys are getting paid in the NFL, and it was just really hard for these young offensive tackles at Nebraska to look good. Yeah. So, they brought in 2 transfers in Kevin Williams Jr. He comes over. He's an Omaha native. Okay. Comes over from Northern Colorado FCS program, and I think he's going to be a really key backup. And maybe sometime during the season he might overtake somebody and grab maybe a guard spot or tackle. He's swung both ways. So during his career at Northern Colorado, and then the other one is coming from Oklahoma State and Hunter Anthony, and I think he's kind of locked in as a tackle. If you need help at tackle, I think he's going to be there as kind of a guy that can give you some reps there. And he has starting experience at Oklahoma State too. So just really interesting. And on top of all this newness, Donovan Raiola is in his first Power 5 offensive line coaching gig.
There you go.
And he's
another name.
Yeah, that is a name for sure. And it's just the big thing this offseason with the offensive line is apparently he's teaching a new technique, a blocking technique.
Okay.
They don't like talking about it much, so we know nothing about it. But Scott Frost basically just said, they're being more aggressive, more firing off the ball. And I think to myself, every time I hear that, well, like, isn't that just offensive line play in general? So I don't know. I've been told that it's more going at the defensive linemen rather than trying to catch them and things like that.
So a little bit more power than zone, maybe.
Yeah, okay. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Honestly, Donovan Raiola is not a big talker in the media, and I get it. That's just how he rolls. But
well, Raiola sounds like a guy that was probably playing when Callahan was there.
Oh no, so he played at Wisconsin. You're thinking of his brother.
Okay.
Yeah, his brother Dominic was all-American trophy winner here. Yeah, and a former NFL guy. Yes. So Donovan is his brother.
So he's from Wisconsin then.
Yeah, he played at Wisconsin.
Well, if you played at Wisconsin, they're doing power football. There's no question about that. So
yeah, absolutely. And he spent the last.
I think that's what they should do. Because look, as a Michigan fan, and I grew up in New Jersey, so I was a Rutgers guy, and I still am. Yeah. I'm loyal to them. But at my age, you had to pick a team. So I picked Michigan. And so that's my team. And I said it all last year, and I've defended Jim Harbaugh because I could tell what he finally did after trying to be with every other team in college football and run the spread. He went back to basics, and we're going to play smash mouth football. We're going to play the way I did at Stanford, and we're going to run the ball, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, and I know Scott Frost has had a lot of success at Oregon and at Central Florida with the spread, and I get that. But he's not winning at Nebraska, and that's why a lot of people were like, well, he's bringing the spread and that offense to Nebraska? Is that going to work out? So maybe Scott's going, this is not working out here. I've got to go back to putting this program where it was successful or where it was dominant, just the way Jim did it at Michigan, we're going to do it here. I'm just saying, based on the conversation we're having on this show, but maybe that's the direction he's going, and I think that's the direction he should go.
Yeah, I mean, overall record 15-29 with Scott. Big Ten record 10-25 since he's been here. It hasn't been good. Things need to be changed.
Just imagine Wisconsin saying, "Oh, we're going to go to the spread, and we're going to bring in some 290-pound offensive linemen." I mean, it's not going to work at Wisconsin. So it's not, and it didn't work here and hasn't worked here. So let's hope that's, if you're a Nebraska fan, I'm going, yes, let's bring that. We're going to dictate terms offensive line back to Lincoln.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I hope so.
Absolutely.
I'd like to see it. Okay. Let's talk about the defense now. And because the defense has actually been the side of the ball that even through a lot of the losing, even with Pelini, that's been okay for the most part. It's been like holding up the team and giving them an opportunity for the most part. And there's a lot of good players. Looks like that's coming back again. Do they run a 2-4-5?
Yeah. So when you start asking Nebraska fans what they run, you get a ton of answers. Yeah. A lot of people say a 3-front, 4-front. They do both. It's multiple. Eric Shenander is an incredibly smart coach. I think he's a future head coach.
I was going to ask about that. He has to be underrated.
Oh, he absolutely is. I mean, what he's done with this program, start from like where he started in 2018 to right now, it's only gone up. And I mean, they say they're going to run more 4-front this year, but again, they have the option to do whatever the offense comes out in, they can adjust to. So whether that's 3 big guys out there, 2 big guys and 2 edges to make a 4-front, it doesn't really matter in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, they bring some talented players back, but they also lost a lot. I don't know if you are okay starting with the defensive line, because that's kind of for sure. So they lost a lot of big guys in the middle that did a really great job in kind of clogging things up and letting the 2 middle linebackers behind them, Luke Reimer, Nick Henrich, both rack up nearly 100 tackles on the year. I mean, so Ben Stille, he's with the Dolphins right now. Damien Daniels, he was with the Texans. DeAndre Thomas, those were 3 key rotation guys that did excellent work, were veteran players who stood their ground. mash things up in the middle and made it easier for the linebackers to tackles. Those guys are gone. Ty Robinson was a part of that rotation as well, and he's incredibly important. He's massive, 6'6", 310 pounds. Now it's his opportunity to be the guy in the defensive line room as kind of a one technique. He'll play a little bit of three technique that he can. So I just think that there's a lot of new faces in the defensive line room. Now, Colton Feist, walk-on from small town Nebraska, it's called Utan, Nebraska. He's going to get a lot of run. Now, he's a little bit smaller than what your average Big Ten lineman looks like. He's about 285 pounds. But boy, they rave about his technique, his speed, his quickness. And obviously there's going to be a rotation, but the two big transfers that they brought in to help Ty Robinson, Stephon Wynn Jr. from Alabama and Devin Drew from Texas Tech. Before that, he starred and was an All-American on the junior college level at Iowa Western Community College, which is a great program right across the river from Nebraska. And then Nash Hutmacher, who is they call him the polar bear. He's got a nickname already, and he's a 330-pound run stuffer, former heavyweight high school state champ wrestler. I mean, he loves to hunt. He's just like a good old Midwestern guy. That a lot of fans kind of just relate to, I think. So he's going to be very important as well, kind of getting his first shot to be out there as part of the real rotation. So Ty Robinson, Colton Feist, Stephon Wynn Jr., Devin Drew, Nash Hutmacher, that's kind of your core right there, right in the middle. That's going to try to replicate what last year's core did too. So, have you had enough time to either see for yourself or hear if any of these guys is ahead of another? I'm talking about the new guys. Yeah, so I think Nash Hutmacher is a little bit ahead of Stephon Wynn, but that's because Nash has been here for 3 years now, 3 or 4 years now. Okay. Stephon Wynn just got here in the summer. So I think it's going to take Stephon Wynn a little bit of time just to grasp the playbook. That's what Erik Chinander said. And Nash is already with the playbook. He's been here for a while. He knows what he's doing. But those guys together, I think are going to be a great asset, 1-2 asset. Important. And then Devin Drew, very productive at Texas Tech. He played in a different system. He played in 3 down as kind of a defensive end, kind of head up on the tackle, a little bit inside shade of the tackle during my film watch with Texas Tech. But he's going to be playing more of a 3 technique from what I've heard this year. And he came really late. He came like two weeks ago. He started practicing at Devin Drew did. So conditioning wise, playbook wise, I think he still has some hurdles to clear before he gets on the field. But last week, Erik Chinander said that Devin Drew is going to be out there and giving him some reps. I don't know how many reps he's going to get, but he's going to be out there. If they kind of limit what he's asked to do, I think you can throw him out there and see what he does. And I think, like I said, he was very productive at Texas Tech. Not a lot of sacks, but I don't think the Texas Tech D-line, I don't think that's what they were kind of meant to do in their 3-front defense. So, but yeah, Colton Feist too, that walk-on, he's going to be out there as well. So, Ty Robinson, Colton Feist, Stephon Wynn, Devin Drew, and Nash Hutmacher. It sounds like there's bodies there. Sounds like there's possibilities. So untested bodies and kind of inexperienced bodies, but they're bodies. So they're going to get all the reps that they want probably. And that's why Ty Robinson, as you led off with, it's a big opportunity for him to be the man up the middle. Yeah. All right. So the linebacking unit, though, very talented. And we can kind of add, edge to that. And by the way, Mathis comes over from TCU. This guy's got quite a resume. 2-time second team All Big 12 selection, 15 and a half sacks the past three years at TCU. Again, like I mentioned with Omar Manning on the offensive side of the ball, Oshon Mathis on the defensive side of the ball is first guy off the bus of material, 6'5", 260 pounds. He looks like an NFL edge rusher, somebody who gets paid a lot of money to go tackle the quarterback. Nebraska hasn't had a guy like that since probably Randy Gregory in like the 2012-2013 seasons when Pelini was here. So there are a ton of expectations with Oshon Mathis. During his recruitment, Nebraska beat out Texas to get him, his home state, Texas. He's from Texas. there is just a ton of hype with his recruitment. And is it going to be Texas? Is it going to be Nebraska? Are the Huskers, are they visiting him at home? You know, all that stuff. It was really fun to watch. But when he picked the Huskers, it was like, okay, how can we get Oshon Mathis? How can we get Garrett Nelson? How can we get Caleb Tanner, 2 other edge rushers? How can we get those 3 guys on the field? That was like what everybody was kind of thinking about. It's fun to think about. Yeah, Eric Shenander has to have fun ways, has to have much fun kind of thinking about ways to draw up pass rushing situations with those 3. But of course, to be able to do that, to rush the passer, you need to stop the run in the Big Ten. And the big thing with me, when talking about Oshon Mathis, is we know he can rush the quarterback. He's shown that. Now, can he do it against Big Ten offensive tackles? Because those are not the same as Big 12 offensive tackles. Just look at the NFL draft for that. Can he replicate what he did in the Big 12? But also, how is he going to hold up against a Minnesota or an Iowa or a Wisconsin that's going to run power right at you and expect you to hold your ground
every week?
And absolutely, for sure. How is he going to put his shoulder into an offensive tackle in the Big Ten, and what's that going to look like? So there's just a ton of expectations with him, and I think fans need to lower them just because especially right away, because I don't know how I guess good he's going to be, because there's obviously going to be a transition, I think, and that's to be expected.
Greener on the other team, and that's why this transfer thing, it's not an easy fix all the time, even though it looks and appears that way. Yeah,
but by all accounts, he's had an excellent fall camp. Eric Shenander has been really impressed with him. We asked him about how they think he's going to hold up in the run game against Big Ten offenses, and he says pretty well. Right. It could be just coach speak. We're just going to have to see it on the field. But yeah, the edge position at Nebraska is probably the deepest, best position on the team. Like I said, Oshon Mathis, Garrett Nelson is a small town kid from western Nebraska in a town called Scotts Bluff. When he went into the program, nobody really expected much. He was just a low 3-star player from small town Nebraska. He's turned himself into a black shirt. He's turned himself into a team captain that was just named last Saturday. And he had the most sacks, tackles for loss last season. And he's going to be on some NFL radars as 6'4", 250-pound, just maniac coming off the edge. I mean, you watch Garrett Nelson, there's fire breathing out of that kid when he plays football. Yeah. It is fun to watch. He cares a lot. There's so much passion for Nebraska inside that kid. It's really fun to watch. And then Caleb Tanner from Georgia, he's entering his 5th year. He's kind of had a nice little arc to his career because he came in as a 4-star prospect. A lot of people had a lot of expectations because he had that 4-star label next to him, but the sacks haven't been there. But he had his best season as a Husker last year. Now he only had 2 sacks, but he just had a quietly good season, in my opinion. Okay. He did really good work against the run as kind of an undersized edge guy. He's about 220, 225 pounds, but he's still playing on the defensive line in the Big Ten. It takes a man to do that. Absolutely. And Caleb Tanner's not big, and he's held up really well, and he's just a good, solid player. So when people look at Caleb Tanner, they don't see the sacks, but I see a really strong, good kid. And I think he's, again, with Oshon Mathis and Garrett Nelson, that's a good trio right there that I think fans are going to really enjoy watching if they could get them out there at the same time.
Yeah, because you don't know, this might be the only year. Well, it will be the only year that they're going to be together. And they might both be gone after this year. And then you look at inside, you mentioned them already. So what did they combine for 208 tackles?
Yeah, they're one of the best. Nick Henrik and Luke Reimer are 2 in-state products. Luke Reimer was born in Kansas, finished his high school career at Lincoln North Star High School here. He lived 8 houses down from Scott Frost's parents in Lincoln.
Benefit.
For sure. And then Nick Henrik, he's from Omaha Burke High School. They are one of the best linebacking duos in the Big Ten. Yes. They are just Nick Henrik, I think, is kind of the north-south gap plugging. Just he's gonna like go downhill and hit you. linebacker, while Luke Reimer is more of a sideline to sideline. He has a little bit more speed. He's a little bit more smaller than Nick is, but I think they work well together. And I just think that they're good leaders on the football team. Nick Henrik was named a team captain last Saturday, and they're really good. And I think if they get the production up front in front of them from those interior defensive linemen, they're going to have a similar season.
That's it.
Yeah, they're going to have a similar season than they did last year. And if that happens, I mean, that's awesome. They're all Big Ten caliber, in my opinion.
Yeah, because it sounds like the front seven does have an opportunity to really dictate terms this season if all goes well. But in the secondary, just like kind of said with the offensive line, a little bit more of a question. There's less experience here. Taylor Britt's gone. A couple of safeties gone. Let's see. Quentin Newsom is back at corner, and the transfer portal. You got several guys coming in from the transfer portal. So how's the secondary shaping up? And is this one of the big questions on the team?
Yeah, it is. Just because they lost 3 of the 4 starters from last year, like you said, Cam Taylor-Britt was excellent. He started off kind of rocky, trying to do too much, and it didn't work out for him. But once he kind of just settled down and kind of just focused on what he could control, he was a really good corner and turned into an all Big Ten corner. And now he's with the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's looking like he's going to make the team. So Quentin Newsom comes in, and he started last year opposite Cam Taylor-Britt, and Quentin Newsom, I think a lot of people are going to be impressed with this year. He's 6 foot. He's 6'1", 185 pounds, and he's not afraid to throw his body in there and tackle. We talked to Travis Fisher, the defensive line coach, and he said that the thing for Quentin Newsom to improve on is his tackling. But he finished tied for 4th on the team in tackles last year. A lot of opposing offenses, if you watch the direction where they run, it was away from Cam Taylor-Britt, and it was right at the new guy, Quentin Newsom. And I thought Quentin held up really well.
Okay.
He's long, he's fast, he sticks on receivers really well. He's really good at man coverage, I believe. So I think a lot of people are going to kind of open their eyes and like, wow, Quentin Newsom, like Travis Fisher can develop DBs at Nebraska.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to do really well here.
Okay.
Now, opposite of him, that's where it's kind of iffy right now. Tommy Hill is a young transfer from Arizona State. He spent his true freshman year. He's from Florida. He went to Arizona State for a year, and now he transferred to Nebraska. He's been raved about this offseason. Travis Fisher and Eric Shenander say he shows flashes of greatness every time he's out there. But the thing with him is consistency. Now, I think he's probably going to start over Braxton Clark, who's a 6'4" corner, a veteran corner. He's a massive corner, big. Yeah, but he just hasn't played a lot in his career. He's been hampered by some injuries during his career, which sucks because I think he is just he has some talent, but he hasn't been able to stay on the field. But Tommy Hill apparently has just been electric this spring ball and fall camp. So look for Tommy Hill to win that battle, and maybe they do a little rotation, especially early in the season, to see who really takes hold of that number 2 corner spot. But my pick is Tommy Hill.
Well, if he can solidify that spot, that would be huge.
Absolutely. Because it's cool to do a rotation right now, but you don't want to do a rotation for the whole season.
That's usually not a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you get to Oklahoma, I want it set for sure. Now at the safety position, it gets a little interesting too. Miles Farmer, he started the last 4 games last year after Deontay Williams went down with the season-ending knee injury at Minnesota. The fan base is kind of torn on Miles Farmer. He's a bigger safety at like 6'1", 200 pounds. He's not the fastest safety in the world, and he's not the best tackling safety in the world. But what he does bring is experience. What he does bring is leadership and knowledge of the playbook. And that's why I think he's going to start at the beginning of the year over Deshaun Singleton, who is a really talented and full potential safety who spent last year. He went JUCO right out of high school in Louisiana. Deshaun Singleton is 6'3", 205 pounds. And Travis Fisher, the defensive backs coach, he had one of my most favorite quotes of all offseason when talking about Deshaun Singleton from Hutchinson Community College in Kansas. He said he is big, and I can't coach that, and he can run, and I can't coach that either. I just love that from Travis Fisher, because it just gives you a sense of how big of an athlete Deshaun Singleton is. And if you watch his huddle highlights from Hutchinson Community College, I mean, he can run. Yeah, he can run. He can hit. He's just a big athlete out there roaming around at safety. And I think once he gets the playbook down, because it's understandable, he comes in for spring ball, and he has to learn all new lingo, all new plays. Sure. So yeah, it's going to take some time for a kid to get that down. But once he does, he might be out there quite a bit, for sure. Now, opposite at the other safety position, opposite Miles Farmer, it sounds like Marcus Buford Jr., the second-year player, is gonna handle that spot. And Marcus Buford Jr. has been raved about. He's another name that keeps popping up with Travis Fisher. The effort with that kid is just unmatched. That comes out of Fisher's mouth almost every single time when he's talking about Marquise Buford Jr. Okay. Now, Marquise is not the biggest guy in the world, but he is not afraid of contact. I wouldn't be surprised if he's out there and they roll into maybe like a one high look. Miles Farmer would be the deep safety kind of playing center field, and Marcus Buford Jr. would be the one that creeps in the tackle box and helps in run support. Looking at him, you might not think that because he's so small, but he brings it. I mean, he played on special teams last year as a first-year player, as a gunner on the punt team, especially, is where I noticed him. And man, he tried hard. He cared about special teams, and that goes a long way with Travis Fisher too. When you hear him talk about guys wanting to be on the field on special teams, so yeah. Okay. And then kind of a dark horse. I got a dark horse for you. He's a transfer from Northern Iowa, Omar Brown. Now, Omar Brown in 2019, I believe, was the FCS Defensive Freshman of the Year at Northern Iowa. Right out of high school, he went to Northern Iowa and took somebody's starting job at corner. It was kind of a cool story. He was really, really good. Now, he's had some injury histories. He did not play in spring ball, or if he did, he was very limited. Okay. But starting in fall camp, he came to Nebraska as a corner, but starting at fall camp, he was moved to safety. And Travis Fisher has been very high on Omar Brown. Right. Scott Frost has been very high on Omar Brown at safety. So Omar Brown is a good one to keep an eye on. 6'1", 195 pounds. He's a bigger guy, and like I said, he showed he could play at the FCS level. And Eric Shenander has some connections at Northern Illinois because he coached there earlier in his career, and there's kind of a nice little connection with Northern Iowa. Sorry, I think I said Illinois earlier. Northern Iowa. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna see, but I think Omar Brown might be close to some reps at safety now, which is kind of fun to think about because he came as a corner. So yeah,
get him on the field if he's talented.
What's that?
Get him on the field if he's talented.
No, yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Especially
so,
if he has those accolades.
Yeah, the defensive backfield is one of the bigger. It's like the offensive line with me. It's just going to be interesting to see how they do because they were pretty good at limiting big plays last year in the passing game, Nebraska's defensive backfield. But like I said, 3 of the 4 receivers have departed. There are going to be some new faces back there playing for the first time. So I guess we'll see how it goes.
Well, I think when you look at it, if we try to be on the positive side, you say, okay, well, the 2 big questions, offensive line, but hey, maybe they're going to start playing more power football and they're going to change the scheme a little bit. So maybe there's a plus there. And then in the secondary, even though there's a lot of questions, you just rattled off some talented players that just have to be, and their numbers. So that's good. Not everyone's going to work out, but not everybody has to be a superstar either. So, and you're going to have more pass rush, hopefully this year. Secondary won't have to, hopefully, so the guys won't have to cover as long. So there's that. Exactly. So you have to look at the positives. And what I'm seeing here is a team that I feel like justifies my pick to win this division because I think it's wide open. I think 4 teams can win this division. I will not believe in Graham Mertz until he does it on the field. I'm so sick and tired of hearing everybody talk about him, and they're talking about him again. Like, would just stop talking about him. Every time I see the kid, he's so erratic. Maybe he will finally get it. Maybe he'll have a breakout year, and if he does, all right, they'll probably win the division. But until he does that, I'm not going to believe it. And they've lost so much, Wisconsin, because of that. I think it's wide open. I think Minnesota's going to be there, and I think Nebraska's going to be there. And, of course, Iowa's always going to contend as well. So if all this works out for Nebraska positively, they definitely can win this division. So, but it all has to work out. It all has to come together. All right.
New offensive coordinator at Wisconsin as well, right?
Offensive coordinator. Yeah. Matter of fact,
Bobby Ingram.
Who did they? I am shocked at this point that Jim Leonard, the defensive coordinator, is still there.
Oh.
I mean,
that guy's awesome.
What's that?
That guy's awesome.
It's like, are you waiting for a head coaching gig here? Or if not, how can he not get phone calls? It's like,
I look at Jim Leonard and I see like a Fitzgerald type situation at Northwestern, that he's just like okay with chilling and coaching defense at Wisconsin for years and years and years and years.
And then he'll get his head coaching job and he'll be there for years
and
years and years.
If he wants it, I mean, of course it comes with a pay bump, but I don't know. That guy just looks like he eats, breathes, sleeps defense and linebackers, and
I don't know,
just Wisconsin, you know?
I know. And that's tough because Chris is like such a home body. He's just Wisconsin. And it's hard to think that he's going to go anywhere. But anyway, it's Ingram, as you mentioned, the new offensive coordinator. We'll see how that works out. Okay, the secondary, this isn't a question. This is an issue. So do you feel things are going to change any? Because this was not good. And I don't understand why they didn't have a coach until this year. What was that about? Not having a special teams.
Oh, special teams?
Yeah, we're not having a special teams coach.
Yeah, so they it was kind of a group effort, is the way that Scott effort. Yeah, it was. Yeah. But on the coaching side of it, Scott, that's just the way that he went about it last year. He had different position coaches just helping out and pitching in with special teams.
Learned his lesson.
Obviously it didn't work, and it was one of the worst special teams efforts in the country and kind of in recent memory at Nebraska. But to his credit, he hired Bill Busch, who's a Pender, Nebraska native, very small town here in Nebraska. He was a former, he's coached a lot of places. Wisconsin, I believe, is one of them. He came from LSU. He's before he was hired at the as a special teams coordinator at Nebraska, he was already on staff as an analyst. Okay. And then before that, he was at LSU. He was did a lot of good things at LSU. He was one of the key guys that helped land Joe Burrow back in the national championship days at LSU. But Bill Busch, I think, is going to turn around the Nebraska special teams a lot. And another thing that's going to help turn things around is the two transfer specialists that they brought in Brian Buschini and Timmy Bleekrode. Brian Buschini was the FCS Punter of the Year last year at Montana. And so, I mean, Nebraska's punt game was just really, really bad. I mean, it cost them games. They would have won the Michigan State game if the punt went the right direction. I know that's kind of crazy to say out loud, but that's exactly what happened. I mean, I just think Brian Buschini has the numbers. He has the stats to make you think that it's going to be a lot better, the punt game in Nebraska. So he'll be the starting punter. And then Timmy Bleekrode, Nebraska, I think, was 50% on their field goal attempts last year. So that's really bad. Timmy Bleekrode comes over from Furman, which is another FCS program, and he did really well over there for about 3 years, I believe. And he's going to be the starting field goal kicker. So, I mean, it's just they bring in two proven guys at their prior stops and, throw them out there and see what they can do. But by all accounts, they've had excellent off seasons here. So I think Nebraska is not going to be as terrible as they were on special teams last year.
But not just, it's not about let's improve to from the bottom quarter to the bottom half. It's about let's actually be halfway decent. And if we can be, and it sounds like they've got the opportunity to do that when you have a new coach who knows how to coach and you have 2 proven kickers. So that's another big improvement when you're trying to figure out a division that is so close, in my opinion, tight within 3 or 4 programs. I mean, you play Iowa and it's like, forget it. I mean, they might beat you just because of the special teams difference that they have over you guys, but that's hopefully not going to be the case this season. And again, another reason why I think this could be Nebraska's year, but we'll see. It all, like we said in the beginning of the program, it all depends on the start they get off to more than anything. And even the Northwestern game, you
can't lose Northwestern. No. They cannot get on the flight home with the loss. No. That absolutely not happen. Just judging from the recent history when things don't go well for this team, I just think that there might be a little mental weakness maybe, and when something bad happens, it just like affects the entire team and things just go downhill so quickly. We saw that last year with Illinois. I don't know. It's just a really, really big game for the season opener against Northwestern. And I mean, a lot is riding on this season and a lot is riding on this game. Yeah. So,
because you never know. That's the thing about Northwestern. You mentioned Fitzgerald. Pat Fitzgerald is such a good coach. It's like he goes from 3-win seasons to winning division championships and then another 3 wins. You know, it's like you don't know what to expect. And you look on the paper, you don't see anything on paper that looks like it's going to change much. But talent-wise, it does look like, unless they have some gems we don't know about, it does look like they've lost even a few more talented players that they just couldn't afford to lose. One of these years, who knows? Maybe he stays there the rest of his career, but I don't know. I mean, he could be a head coach next year in the NFL if he wants to.
Absolutely. Didn't he turn down like the Bears job?
I think he could have. I think he could have had that job. Yes. So who knows? Maybe he'll take the job in 3 or 4 years if it comes up again. Timing's everything. Steve, great job. I'm glad that we get an opportunity to talk about the Huskers here now for a change. So that's great. And hopefully it's a really good season. Because if it's a really good season, then we'll definitely talk more. Because I don't want to talk to you about anything negative, like looking for a new head coach.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that either. That's going to be crazy around here if that has to happen.
Do you have you have a show, correct? Or do you not have
I do not. I just have the Inside Nebraska website.
Okay, so it's just so you don't do any podcasts then?
No, I'm podcastless. I guess I should get on that. It's 2022, right?
Yeah,
that's what everybody
wants. All right. Well, I'll keep that in the back of my mind. No podcast for Steve. All right, sounds good, Steve. Anyway, Rivals, you can't beat it. Everybody should know by now how good Rivals is with everything. If you want to know about your team, recruiting, obviously, and it's not just football. So check it out, and we'll hopefully talk to you again real soon, Steve. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me on, Greg.